We're very fortunate to be joined today by two dynamic business leaders who can tell us firsthand about the benefits your businesses can reap when hiring people with disabilities. John Robinson, CEO of Employability, Inc., is an internationally recognized inclusive workforce and employment consultant who was recently named the 2018 Regional Chamber Champion of the Year. He was also named one of 10 national White House Champions of Change for Disability Employment in 2014. John also chairs Disability in New York, formerly known as the New York Business Leadership Network. Joining John is Mike Miller, Vice President for Human Resources Operations at Price Chopper Market 32. Mike is the top executive in charge of corporate and store labor relations, training, talent acquisition, and organizational development at Price Chopper and Market 32 stores in New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, Pennsylvania, and New Hampshire. Mike has set the tone for a corporate culture that not only recognizes the value of an inclusive workforce, but also showcases it. In addition to ensuring a corporate inclusive hiring practice, Mike and his team have created Price Chopper's Hiring Advantage, bringing forth leaders in human resources and talent acquisition to help people with disabilities acquire such skills as resume writing, building interview skills, identifying proper job skills, and navigating applications so they can be successful in the workplace. Mike and John are going to lead us in an interactive discussion about how hiring people with disabilities can improve your bottom line.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How cool is it to be in the Apple Store?
Very cool.
I love retail grocery, that's the business we're in, but there's something special about this kind of a place, and much appreciation to Apple for providing us this location. Guys, thank you very much. Before we get started, wanted to just do a few more acknowledgments. This has been quite a process putting this whole program together, which is going to culminate obviously this Sunday, as Jen mentioned. But it really started with a reach out by the Schenectady Jewish Community Center reaching out to our company and saying, we have this concept of capital capabilities, putting on a program for National Disability Employment Awareness Month, but we want to do more with it. We wanted to really have a focus on needs of business and employment, and it's taken on a whole other level with programs like this and what we hope to see happen throughout the weekend. So thanks to the Jewish Community Center. Thank you to the Price Chopper team that have been a huge part of this committee and planning. I've got Barbara Kessler here, who's been at the heart of it, Dylan Grimmett, Sharon Geracia, Ben Bishop is here from our team, and I thank you guys very much. Thank you guys. And really, this has been a collaborative effort. It's really been a cross-section of individuals and organizations, from business like ours, like Our Ability and Disability In, to OPWDD, to the various agencies. It's been really a team effort to create such a powerful program. Speaking of which, we need to start, John. We need to get into this interactive program. And I know everybody wants to hear from John, so I promise I'll be brief, and we are going to go back and forth a little bit. But the way we wanted this to go today, I think the first word that comes to mind is interactive, especially for the businesses in the room. So if you have questions, feedback, success stories as we're hitting on a topic, speak up. We've got extra microphones here. We want to make this about learning and takeaways. And any training event or any program like this, I always like to say you want to have at least one or two things you're leaving out of the session being all the better for, or doing differently in the way you approach your professional life as a result. So please, let's keep this interactive. We're going to talk a little bit about our organizations and what good has looked like with some of the outcomes we've seen, as Jennifer alluded to. We're going to get really specific, and we're going to hear from individuals that have been true champions and success stories with employment, which I think is going to be the best part of our program. And that's going to be also a huge, I think, part of that interactive piece that we talked about. So before I turn it over to John, just a little bit more about our organization, and Jennifer gave us a great introduction. We've been operating for a long time. Price Chopper was actually founded in 1932. So we definitely have a lot of great history on our side. And everything that we've really done over time has been rooted in, I think, really great values and a great leadership group, a great family leadership group that starts with the goal of family and what they allow us to do each and every day. And Barbara's probably sick of hearing me say this because I've said it so many times now, but we've always been really good and prideful in what we do with the employment of individuals with disabilities. But over the course of the past 4 or 5 years, mainly because of our connection with this gentleman right here and all the different possibilities that have arisen from that, I've described it as this car that's like going along, almost like this 5-speed car, and all of a sudden you've been going along just fine, but you find the 6th gear and you just can't believe where things take you. So I'm really appreciative of that. There aren't enough superlatives to describe John in all that he accomplishes. He is just, it's hard to describe John, and these are unprepared comments. I mean, he's like a human bridge between state agencies and all the great work and visions that they have, like Employment First, to business, to forming the Business Leadership Network, which is now called Disability In, where we're proud members, and I'm a board member of that organization because it's that important. But John is just the heartbeat of keeping all this stuff together and keeping us all on track to make sure we're doing the right things and really supporting this important initiative and always keeping our eye on it. So I'll get back to you in a little bit when we start going back and forth a bit about some successful outcomes, but for now I'd like to turn things over to John Robinson, CEO of Our Ability and Chairman of the Business Leadership Network.
Thank you, Mike, very much. It's always nice to hear compliments. It's also sort of funny to hear compliments because my wife doesn't want my head to get too big, so I've got to be careful in listening to that, but I appreciate that. I'm in a technology store, so this is like a kid in a candy store. The machine that I need to buy for the video work that we still do is over there, so I'm going to stay as far away from that corner as possible. So if you see me walk that way, stop me, please stop me. It's great to be here. It's great to see so many friends. It's great to see so many new faces. This is a very important morning for all of us in this room. I think most of us know it. Some of you may not know how important it's going to be as you go forward, but it's vitally important. It's important on a personal level, and it's important for me specifically because I started Our Ability a little over 9 years ago as a way to mentor people with disabilities in a way that I needed a generation ago. Because when I graduated Syracuse University with a degree in television, radio, film, in 1990, great college, great GPA, great internship, no TV station in North America would hire me. And it took 4.5 years before I got that first opportunity. That is the genesis of Our Ability. It's to help bridge businesses, the language that businesses use, and people with disabilities, the language that we use, and disability service providers. Because at the end of the day, if we don't bridge the communication gap, we will never truly be able to help each side of the equation. And it's wonderful to hear Andy say that businesses are important because businesses are important. We are important in this equation. And it's equally important that individuals have an opportunity. And so everything that Our Ability stands for and our Disability In Business Leadership Network stand for is to create opportunities for individuals to support the business and to support the individual. We know, because we're in this room, that the unemployment rate for individuals with disabilities is somewhere near 70%. It's an astronomical unemployment rate. And we have to do everything we can to bring that unemployment rate down. We do it for the individual. Me, in my life, all I wanted, it wasn't necessarily to run a TV station, although that's what I told people. Bless you, Fred. What I wanted was the life that running that TV station would provide. Because when I was in high school, when I was in college, all I really wanted was a job that could afford me the pickup truck that I drive, the new iPhone that I own, the family that I can support, a marriage of 25 years to Andrea and 3 children. That's what I want. The TV station was the means to an end, and that's what I could see at 17 years old. Right? And so being told no repeatedly for employment is really telling you no, you can't have the dreams that you want. At the same time, all business wants and this is what becomes really important to us, all a business wants are good, quality, hardworking individuals. That's all we want. As a business owner myself, all I want is for people to show up, have a smile on their face, give their best effort, and move forward. I'm not asking for perfection. Apple's not asking for perfection. Price Chopper Market 32 is not asking for perfection. We just want people that are willing to show up and work hard and do the best that they can. And that is the definition of individuals with disabilities. Because we will show up, we will work hard, we will do our best. And that's what we do. You see, when I got that job, finally 4.5 years at the TV station, and had a 16-year career in television, I worked my butt off. I made a lot of money for the TV station. I learned a lot about myself. But the broadcast industry and the stations that I worked for learned a lot about what they could hire, who they could hire. And that's what we're here today in this store to talk about. Because we need to answer the questions that the business community has. First and foremost, we need to answer the questions the business community has. We are effectively at full employment in upstate New York. We have to understand that, and we have to talk that way to a business. What does eBizDocs needs? What do you need? And then can we find that solution with the population that we serve and who we are? Yes, we can. And so that's what we do with Disability In and our Business Leadership Network and our ability. We meet with the business, we talk to the business, what do you need? Let's try to figure it out. Now, it's a push-pull. Example, I had a conference call with KeyBank yesterday. KeyBank has 5 categories of jobs in 2 markets in upstate New York. And they would like to fill hundreds of positions. Last week, we were in Rochester. A computer programming company pulls me aside and says, I have 150 positions in Western New York open today. What can we do? We, our ability, go to the disability service providers across New York State and say, we have these jobs. Bring us your candidates. But not the definition of a candidate. Not somebody that will only work 15 hours. Not somebody that can't get there. Not the definition. We have to think beyond the scope of what we've done before so that we can solve these issues. Because we have businesses in New York State that want to thrive. They don't want to leave New York State. We have a community that we serve that's underemployed. We've got to then bridge that gap between the skills and the communications and the opportunities, and we know we can do it. And every company that I speak to says, give me an example of what we've done well. Well, Price Chopper is the example of what we've done well. Price Chopper Market 32 has always employed individuals with disabilities, and they are a shining rock star in the business community for doing that. But after cycling across New York State for 5 years, what Mike and Mona and others said, what can we do better? That's music to my ears. What can we do better? And so collectively, we've worked to take the employees that they have today and per store, with the stores that we've worked on, increase that, I don't want to put a multiplier on it, but increase that in a great number. And we have. And so when I speak to businesses, I mention the work that we've done with Price Chopper and others because we can, when we speak business to business, and when we think about the individual through the disability service provider, we can make great inroads. That's what we do. And so if you're a business out here today and you want to expand your workforce, please speak to Mike or I. Please do that, because we can help you do that, and that's the conversation we want to have this morning.
Thank you, John. So I think a great transition from that is talking about maybe an example of a really strong outcome before we get to our speakers. A couple more minutes, guys, then we're going to be good to go. So we talk about, the dynamics of the employment world and whether it's KeyBank needing 150 people or that technology firm John just talked about. I can tell you there's not a store, and there's 136 of them, 135, Sharon, 136. Is there any store that we're not hiring in, or category that we don't need people in right now? The answer is no, we need people everywhere. And outcomes that are different or that innovate don't necessarily have to be creative or so out of the box they're not realistic or achievable. And case in point is the hiring advantage, and I do want to talk about that because anybody can do the hiring advantage. Any company. There's no super secret sauce to it. It's just about hard work and focus and structure to a program that understands, the important and undertapped candidate pool that exists, of individuals with disabilities that are so underemployed. We talked about having to think differently and having to be willing and receptive to do things. Well, there's probably no better example of that than Access VR. I mean, think about that. A very long-standing, excellent organization. They're innovative because they want to do things differently. Because the hiring advantage wouldn't be in existence if it weren't for Brian Basic at Access VR being willing to do something different during this month. Now it's 3 years ago, I think. We wanted to conduct a normal mentoring day tour, sort of check the box in and out, but Brian and Barb and I talked about, how can we do this differently? How can we actually conduct an event where we hire people and see outcomes that we want to achieve? So that's what we did, and we turned it into this, great promotion of the event. We didn't just go to the Access VR candidate pool. We went to the local BOCES programs at the high schools. We went to Wildwood. We went to OPWDD. And now we've turned it into this event where there's a waiting list of candidates. And the only commitment by the company is the commitment to hire. Basically, completing the program is your ticket to candidacy and likely being hired because you've gone through all the curriculum and we know we have the needs. So think about the simplicity of that. It's really about just focusing on getting it done. And again, as John said, I would love to talk to any of you about that. One plug that I want to put in for this weekend, and this is mainly for the businesses in the room, is there's a learning lounge experience that is really informed and inspired by the hiring advantage. We're sponsoring it and putting it on, but we're right now trying to pre-register candidates for it that are looking for work. And we're also trying to ask businesses in this mall what their needs are for the holiday selling season that's coming up. We know that's a big time of year for all of us that are in retail. And we'd love to talk to you about that. I've got my group here, I'm here, John's here. What do you guys need for the fall? And we would love to look at candidates for you this Sunday that could help you achieve that. So businesses in the room, agencies in the room, let's get candidates into that event on Sunday so that we can then transition them to consideration in some of the businesses in this building that we know are doing hiring this fall, or this holiday season rather. So a very strong outcome, the hiring advantage. I think we've had 7 events, or we've had 5, but 2 more are now scheduled for next month. And it's dozens of individuals that we've hired that we would not have been able to hire because it's simply tapping into this great underemployed, untapped pool. There's a lot being touted in the country right now about unemployment being so low, and we know the economy is thriving, except for yesterday. But the economy is thriving, but there's a downside to that. There's an inverse relationship because good businesses like us and like you guys that are growing and adding people and needing the 150 people, those needs don't decrease even though the supply and candidate pool goes down. That's why this is so important to tap into these groups that want to be working and that are great people that can fulfill those needs. So you can probably see the passion that we have for this. It's just such an opportunity that's right there and so practical. So please network with us. Let's get this Learning Lounge thing really, let's have it take off on Sunday and let us know how we can help you. So even better than me blabbing about hiring advantage and our company, which I'm very proud of, is to hear some really strong stories. John, did you have anything else? We can certainly wrap up in a little bit, but I wanted to certainly have Andrew.
I think we need to get to the stars.
I think we need to hear this from the stars. This is enough talking head stuff.
I will say, does anybody have any questions for what we do and what we're talking about prior to rest?
I just want to give an endorsement to Price Chopper with Living Resources. 32 years ago, we started an employment program, and Price Chopper was the mainstay then, because they said we want the people we hire to look like the people that come and buy groceries here. So your commitment's been very long. And just to give you a bit of chilling story is that one of the people in that year, in '86, that went to work for you in your mini mart, she retired from Price Chopper. That's how long your commitment's been, and so you've got a long history and keep it going.
Thank you very much. That's great to hear. We love to hear those. Another great outcome there. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. So we're almost there, guys. So I wanted to sort of introduce you this way. So John's organization has sponsored a cycling journey. It's called the Journey Along the Erie Canal for the last 5 years, maybe 6 years now. And for many of those years, the event would culminate and stop at our office, and we put on kind of a closing ceremony type of feel for the trip, and it allowed us to promote awareness and certainly promote things that way. So the last trip this summer, just a couple of months ago, they stopped as normal, and I would probably say that was the best presentation that we had, and this was what got us talking about it as related to this breakfast, because the reason it was the best one we've had is because we heard from individuals from our organization that were employed and that were thriving in their roles and their careers with Price Chopper. And when we were planning today, we said, we need to find a way to do that. And that's what we've done, I believe, with Jordan and with Andrew, because it's very important to hear from our community and hear great business outcomes, success stories of individuals that are employed and doing a great job in their roles. So somebody has to go first. So I'm going to introduce Jordan first to come on up. He wants to say a few words.
All right. You got this, Jordan.
Jordan, we had a great conversation earlier, right, about how much fun this is going to be. But he's doing a fantastic job right now working for Druthers in Albany. And the really great thing about it is that beer, and especially the brewing aspect of the process, is a passion of his. And he's been allowed to, or been able to fulfill that passion through the role that he's in now. And he's got some great dreams and aspirations even beyond what he's doing now in the brewing industry. And we'd love for you to hear from him for a few minutes right now. So ladies and gentlemen, Jordan West.
Good morning. My name is Jordan West, and I want to share my work experience with you. I work at Druthers Brewing Company in Albany. I work the bottling line. I build cases for 6-packs and stuff them into larger cases for distribution. I also clean the kegs and sample the product to ensure its quality before they bottle it, for work purposes only. My job is important to me because I am very, very passionate about the craft beer industry and the culture. I have had other jobs, most of which were not successful. Druthers feels like my second home because of how supportive the employer and my coworkers are to me. Whenever I am having a problem with the task I'm doing, I go and ask them, how do I do this, or can you help me? They are always willing to help me. They are very patient with me. I am here to tell you, employers, that you should hire people with disabilities because everyone deserves a chance, whether you have a disability or not. Since Druthers gave me an internship opportunity through ETB, I am now competitively employed at my dream job. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate your time. I hope you will all consider giving individuals with disability a fair shot at employment.
I was lucky enough to interview Jordan a couple, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. He may not remember it or not, but I had a chance to interview him. And you know what you noticed right here? A smile on the face. Isn't that what every business wants? Right? When a customer walks in the door, the person that greets them needs to have a smile on the face. I don't care if they're bottling, I don't care if they're behind the scenes or in front of the house or whatever it is, because Jordan wearing that t-shirt rocking druthers right now in public, proud of where he works, sampling the product for business purposes only, I think he said, which I don't believe at all. That's who we are. And that's what's so important. And we need to remember that.
He's also modest, John,
Yes.
because we had a great chat earlier about his dream of one day. What is your long-term goal, Jordan? He wants to open his own brewery, and I have no doubt that that'll happen for you if you keep working hard at it. Congratulations. And a great testimony of the OPWDD Employment Training Program, which is a very great structured approach to employment. So things working on all cylinders in that regard as well. Very nice job. So our next guest speaker is Andrew Maggio.
Yes.
And Andrew, we're very fortunate because he actually has some experience speaking and
Yes.
telling. You know, he actually presents, I think, periodically to some autism groups in various ways.
Correct.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Currently employed, near and dear to our own hearts, and I can see our team at Price Chopper, the wheels are turning even with Jordan, guys. We have to stay away. They're gainfully employed. Yeah, I understand.
We don't mean no harm.
We don't mean any harm. Working in retail for Marshalls since 2015, but with some great experiences prior to that also. And I'd now like to introduce you to Andrew Maggio.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. And we was called here at short notice because recently I've been practicing for another speaking engagement coming up this Monday. So I'm going to do the best I can to open up your minds and all that. So as you heard, I am Andrew Maggio, and I have been in Marshalls since 2015, but I've been in retail longer than 2015. I actually used to work at Godiva down in the Woodbury Commons prior to living in Albany, and if you ever been to the Commons, you would know what a trip it is down there. Anyway, what I do at Marshalls is basically the basic stuff, which is handling shoes, so that way everyone can walk in, and in some occasions I would often clean the mirrors. So basically it's just the baby steps. That's because well, you gotta have a starting point if you want to get to your key goal in life, right? So being at Marshalls, I have to be honest with you. When I was looking for a job in Albany, I thought it was going to be like a long-term search, but there was a job coach at the time there who actually found it there, because originally I was going to work at Walmart, and seriously, I really did not want to work there. I know how the benefits are over there. And I was like saying, well, there must be some other clothing store that could help out, and thankfully my job coach found Marshalls, and once I did the assessment there, I was hired there right on the dot. So you can imagine how much has progressed since 2015. And on a lighter note, I've been counting up how many cases of shoes I've done, and I did like over 3,000, and to be exact. But other than doing shoes and cleaning, and there are times when I would come across a customer who needs assistance, and I try to help them out if I can, even if they are arrogant. But still, I try my best to help out, and if they feel satisfactory, it means I've obviously had my skills put out. In fact, there was one case a couple of weeks ago after I helped that customer, and I bumped into them at a Starbucks near a neighbor who is at Target, and I said to them, so what did you think of my sermon? And I thought you were pretty good. I'm like, well, thank you. And I don't need to get into so much small talk, because I can tell there's some other speakers is after me. So let's see. So other so when it comes to meetings, is what we call it at Marshall's Code-Ms, we often share like ideas and how we can improve improvements in the business, and sometimes I would chime in as well. Although every time they always look at me for comic relief, because there was a point when there was a meeting and everyone was glancing at me. I was like, "What? I got nothing to say." Saying, "Why are you all looking at me?" Like literally, I really did have nothing to say. So socializing at work also helped me out as well, because when I socialize at work, it helped me improve to socialize during my recreational times. So say like I want to hang out with my friends, like going to places like Flight or any other fun places and such. I use that skills to bend between working in conversations and rec conversations. However, there are some points where when I'm in work, there's some like disadvantage, and there will be a point where one of my coworkers would advocate for me and stand up for someone, even though that only works in like in TV and media. No offense to your former business. even though it works in like TV and media, it sometimes can happen in reality. And honestly, when a coworker stands up for you, that shows how much you have give to your business. Yes, and but the reality is that Marshall's, as I said earlier, was my starting point. And my key goal in life is to be a key public speaker, not just for the autism community, but for disabilities in a whole. And I can't stress this enough. I've seen what's been going on in the media with the whole, well, I don't want to get into politics, that could be another subject. But anyways, prior to this engagement, I was actually down in Orange County, and I mentioned some of the things I'd done for my transitional life, and someone came up to me last week and said, you really should make public speaking as a career. I'm like, well, I'm trying. I'm not exactly a supercomputer, no offense to Apple. But I do what I can to get out of my comfort zone and just get my butt out of bed and do the best that I can, because here we are in 2018, and 2 years from now we'll be in a new decade with new ideas, new possibilities, and new strategy skills. Those for the disability community. So well, that's all I have to say. So does anyone have any questions? Anyone? Bueller? No?
I see public speaking as future, and actually I see like a comedy night too. It makes me think of a couple of things. I mentioned before that if you're a business right now and you're here and you're wondering about what it is that we do, and I mentioned the smile on the face of the employee that you have. I also want to point out the Longevity 2015, and I want to share a story with you. I had the opportunity to go up to Toronto, Ontario, and speak to some business people in Toronto, and I met a franchisee owner of multiple franchises of Tim Hortons stores. And the franchisee owner pulled me aside. He goes, "Let me tell you a story." He goes, I bought these franchises in downtown Toronto, and I put an ad in the paper in the Star to find employees for my coffee shop. And 10 people walked in, and 2 people had disabilities. And I hired the 2 people with disabilities and 2 others, and the 2 others left pretty quickly. And then I put the ad in the paper again, and the same ratio came in. And he goes, "I noticed statistically that my employees with disabilities stayed 7 times longer than my able-bodied employees at the store." And he goes, "Then I got smart. I only started asking for employees with disabilities in my ads in the paper." And he goes, "That's money to my bottom line. And I'm not doing it because it feels good, although it does feel good. I'm doing it because it's the bottom line. I run a business. And when you hear 2015 in a Marshalls store, that's gold to Marshalls. And we can't forget that. We have to speak business to business because it's that important. And we have to realize the dramatic impact it makes on our lives as people with disabilities to be able to get the confidence to stand up here and talk and have a smile on our face and realize that it's about our whole self. It's about the whole business self, and it's about the whole individual self. And we will meet our goals in New York State and beyond if we start looking at both wholes together. And that's what this event is about, and we can't forget that.
Absolutely, well said, John. I mean, you can teach anything. I mean, is there anyone here that wouldn't hire Andrew or Jordan? I mean, is there any store of our 136? I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. So we have to keep pushing. We have to keep bridging.
Any comments out there? Any questions?
Any companies with questions? Any businesses?
I'll
from
flat
the
out
mall?
call on you. I'll call on you. You might be hiding behind that.
Can I just point something out? In both of your stories, you were introduced to the business that you're working for through an assessment, right, and through ETP. So for all the businesses in the room, those are two really valuable programs that you can take advantage of when you partner with agencies. Instead of having somebody come in and do an interview face-to-face, which can be really awkward, especially for people on the autism spectrum or anybody in general, the assessments and the ETP program allows the person to actually try the job that they would be hired to do. So you get to see the person in action, you get to see how they learn the job, you get to see their commitment because they do these things. Assessments are unpaid, no commitment, and ETP is paid with the thought that they would get the job, but through the state. So it's just ways for you guys to take advantage of these resources and working with an agency so that individuals can get jobs and actually try the job without doing an interview that you might be typically used to. So I just wanted to point that out.
And that's really important. You know, the reason we exist in our niche with our ability and disability in is because, you know, Mary and Beth and I do know enough to be dangerous, right? We understand a business doesn't know all the disability service providers and the language that New York State has and the alphabet soup that we have here in New York. We do, right? And so we can be that conduit to be able to help you as a business understand better where to navigate in this disability space. And on the disability side, we do speak business all day long. So that's, you know, we don't expect everybody to know everything. And let us help build that bridge that needs to be built.
Maybe one last. Brian.
Yeah, if I could just kind of build off of what Bridget was saying. I work with Access VR, and we also do our best in trying to match people with jobs for everyone's benefit. We offer work trial opportunities where we can reimburse the company the wages that they pay them, so the person can learn the job, explore the job, get some kind of support and assistance if necessary, and the company is able to grow that person to a strong employee while recouping the wages that they paid them for the first month, 2 months, or 3 months. We can also go down to job training for longer periods, which is similar, and we can even help with federal and state tax reimbursement. So there are many ways that businesses can really benefit by working with people with disabilities, offer them, different types of training opportunities, and really developing a strong workforce that's going to work for them.
Anyone else? Before we turn it back over to Jen, I just want one last plug for Sunday's Learning Lounge, because I think it's that important. Barb, Dylan, raise your hand, Ben and Sharon. These are the folks we should be networking with if anyone has interest of passing candidates our way to attend the experience on Sunday, or if you're a business in the room looking to do some hiring. These are the folks to talk to along with myself and John.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
John, it was a pleasure, as always.
Right back at it. Thank you.
It's an honor,
Thank
as
you.
always.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thanks, guys.